want to thank you very much for joining us from Cairo, and I am glad you're safe. We are also joined in our New York studio by Mostafa Omar, an Egyptian-American activist and writer who lives in New York City. Mostafa, I wanted to ask you about the U.S. response. Clearly, the U.S. weighs in big time here, makes an enormous difference. Second largest recipient of U.S. aid, well over $2 billion the Egyptian government receives. What about what Hillary Clinton has said? Has President Obama weighed in?
It's really interesting that Hillary Clinton said that she supports the universal rights of the Egyptian people after the fact that the Egyptian people have began to exercise those rights. The Secretary of State had no such words for the Egyptian regime over the last number of years. In fact, what she also forgot to mention is that the tear gas and the tanks that are driving into protesters, the concussion grenades, are all made in the United States. That is the meaning of $2 billion in military aid, military and economic aid. I think the other point to bring up is that the State Department actually yesterday mentioned that they would love to see the Mubarak regime bring about reform from above, because they're absolutely scared of a Tunisia-style uprising from below. And that's why I think they've changed their tone from the Egyptian government is stable to urging the Egyptian government to bring about reform before it's too late, before things take a Tunisian turn.
Mostafa, can you talk about the April 6th youth movement and what role that plays?
The April 6th youth movement is really one of a number of youth movements that have developed in the last few years. They've actually organized a number of demonstrations in the last 2 years. Most of those demonstrations were small, numbered in the hundreds, maybe 500, 600 at most. However, in the last few weeks after the Tunisian explosion, really the organizing that has gone on for the last few years has began to pay off. And a lot of young people through Facebook and Twitter, and a lot of young people have also been involved in strikes in the last few years, have actually joined in this political movement with the April 6th and a number of other groups. I just watched an amazing call from a young woman, a veiled young woman, one of the leaders actually of the movement in Tahrir Square, downtown Cairo. It's a 6-minute video on Facebook calling for massive national day of action after the Friday prayers. She was incredibly eloquent, passionate, and millions of people probably will watch that video. So the young people, Egypt's a country of 60% of the population is under the age of 30, and 90% of the unemployment is also for those young people. And I think they are playing a tremendous role, students and unemployed, along with workers in this movement.
Well, I want to thank you very much, Mostafa Omar, for joining us, an Egyptian-American activist living here in New York City, where we usually are, though we're broadcasting from Utah. We'll certainly cover events tomorrow, what's expected to be a even more massive demonstration from the poorest in Egypt to the elite, taking to the streets of Cairo, Alexandria, Suez, all over Egypt, taking on the more than 30-year regime of Hosni Mubarak. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace.